From the Tickscape Studios, let's f***ing go.
9:59 Pacific. We're starting the show early. I don't know if I have an extra 30 seconds of showing me, guys. Dave Benz, Jim Cosmore, glad to have you along. Matt Fowler, our producer, and our associate producer, Bisa, hanging out in Las Vegas, Nevada, where Bisa says the temperature is under 90 today, so she's excited about that. I like the heat. I'm good with the heat. Bisa's
not 90, bruh.
Like, because here, like, palm trees don't give you shade, and there's no wind, and there's no clouds. So it's sorry.
Yeah. There you go.
That's me monitoring.
Visa doesn't have headphones on today. That's okay. But it's all good.
Your first day as an associate producer. Come on, Bisa. Come on.
Now Matt, I see why Matt wanted to promote you, Bisa. He just wanted somebody
kidding.
that he can feel like he's got hierarchy
kidding.
over.
No.
He should be in a good mood with the Timberwolves winning.
Yeah, well, I do like the Timberwolves. Wait, did I do it? Did I say it right? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you. I don't know if you said it right. You said, "Here we go."
Timberwolves.
Yeah, the Timberwolves did win last night. They are now 2-0. We will have a Timberwolves-related guest on the show today, Chris Hine from the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, who's been a beat writer on the team for probably, I'm going to guess, the last 6 or maybe even 7 years. Jerry Zgoda was the longtime beat writer, and then Jerry stepped aside, got tired of being on the road, so Chris took over, and Chris does a fantastic job writing. So we'll have him coming up in the second hour of the show today to talk about the Timberwolves as they enjoy their 2-0 series lead. Finally, some road teams won last night in the NBA playoffs. The Dallas Mavericks were able to get a big win behind Koz's favorite player, Luka Doncic. Koz, I know you're fired up.
You know, the playoffs only begin when a road team gets a W, as you know.
Well, that's when a series begins. I guess it's also when the playoffs begin.
That's when the playoffs begin. When a road team gets a win. Before that, you're just winning home court games. Doesn't matter. The minute a road team wins, that's when the playoffs begin, baby.
By the way, your mic is not cutting out today, so we're loving that. We got Jim Cosmore in full effect today.
You jinxed it,
One
Dave.
for one.
Man, we got.
You don't mention it.
We got 1 hour and 58 minutes left, and you already jinxed it.
All right, so listen, I've got a quick update that we didn't mention in the show that's non-sports related, and then we'll get into the show. But I've got well, that's the wrong siren. I don't have a nuclear.
I like that siren.
I don't have a nuclear bomb
siren
going off. You like the other siren better?
I like that.
That one sounds like
that tells you something's coming up. You better come up with some big news.
Sounds like 3 Mile Island.
Sounder. Who activated the Chernobyl sounder, man? Come
exactly. It sounds like 3 Mile Island. No, it's more like this one. You guys remember a couple weeks ago when I went on, I told you guys about the ticket I got for holding my cell phone and asking Siri to play Spotify for me for literally 2 seconds?
Don't even get me started with you. Don't even come back to that state and take up arms against my government.
I may have a good news update. I don't want to jinx it. But
right.
I don't want to jinx it, but I'm going to put it out there. I may have actually gotten a get out of jail free card on that situation. So I've been waiting as you guys know, I went to Florida for the US Open Pickleball Championships.
Yes.
And I came back and I was expecting there to be some kind of a summons or something in my mailbox. I actually expected to get it like 2 days after the violation, because when it comes to these kind of things, the government's not wasting any time. They want their money and they want it quickly. So nothing came in the week before I went to Florida. So I thought for sure when I came back there'd be something in my mailbox. I go to my mailbox, nothing in my mailbox. So I said, well, I better take a closer look at the citation. So I look at the citation and it says that, first of all, I can't even read what the date is because it's basically illegible what the cop wrote. But I think the date for my court appearance was supposed to be April 21st, which is bad on me for not knowing that if that's the case. But I could make a serious, strong case that it is illegible and you can't tell what the date is. But my best guess is he was trying to write April 21st in his chicken scratch. So I'm like, oh, this is not good. I missed the date. So yesterday afternoon, I called the courthouse and got on the automated line, and they're like, enter your citation number for the information. It comes back, we have no record of this citation. So then it says, for further information, you can go to the website. So I go to the website. I type in the citation number. No record of a citation. Then I'm like, well, I better try it with my driver's license number because they give you different options. I type in my driver's license number. No record of this citation. And I'm like, how is there no record of this citation? So
I can tell you why there's no record of the citation. Well, wait, I'll let you finish.
Okay, no, you tell me why. Tell me why.
Go ahead. Spoil this bit, Matt. Go ahead.
Well, wait. So,
make Dave upset and angry.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, let's go.
So Dave, when did you get this ticket again?
March 23rd.
March 23rd. Okay. Well, they say it takes a month for the systems. If a cop writes you a ticket, because normally, I mean, I'd be very surprised if your court date was the 21st. Now that you told me when you got stopped on the 23rd, because it's normally like months and months after that. It takes 30 days, they say, to get the citation into the system. It can take up to 30 days.
Well, you may be accurate about that. I don't know, but here's the piece of information you don't know.
Okay.
In your face.
So I need an in your face drop. So I still have a Minnesota driver's license. Probably shouldn't say that because technically I'm supposed to have a California license since I'm living back in California now full time.
I still have Minnesota plates on my car, dude. It's all good.
Okay, so I still have a Minnesota license. So the cop, when he wrote in on the citation, it says my driver's license number, and next to it, it says state, and he wrote CA. So he put my driver's license number as a California license on the citation. So I think there's a decent chance, I'm knocking on wood here, I think there's a decent chance that I may be getting a get out of jail free card on this because they're looking for my driver's license in the California system and it's not coming up. Matt?
You know what? I think you've got a case. I think you've got one. And
yeah, I think you're right, Dave. I think the cop, in his haste to get his quota that day, did not actually bother to look at your license.
No, he looked at it. He knew it was Minnesota because he asked me, he's like, is this accurate? And I told him, oh, yeah, I just moved back. I've been spending a lot of time back and forth. I need to go get the California license. And he's like, yeah, if you're living here, you should have a California license. And then, he comes back. But he wrote CA on the ticket. So
well, yeah. So he was in a rush and he didn't connect the dots. He may have looked at your license, but he just didn't connect the dots.
Yeah. So I think,
or he knows what an idiot ticket it would have been, so he made a clerical error. So he didn't have to.
I had considered that point. But the guy was such an a-hole that I really have a hard time.
Then you got to stick it to
was
him.
The case.
Stick it to him. Then you got to stick it to him. If he was an a-hole, you got to stick it to him.
So anyway, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I think I got a better than 50-50 shot of getting a get out of jail free card on this. So we will let you know how that works out. Speaking of get out of jail free card,
can you do the show from the courtroom? Can you do
Yes.
Can you do a live update in the courtroom because you did one from 39,000 feet in the Atlantic? So I'd love to hear you in the courtroom with your case.
Yeah, I'm sure that the court would love that. They'd give me a standing ovation for doing that. That would be fantastic.
I would.
Jim and Matt, I am being forcefully removed by the bailiff right
Yep.
now. And, sir, can you my arm doesn't bend that way, please.
Wow, that we just were able to give you an ordinary calls here in the first segment of the show.
Yeah.
Ordinary calls right there. Dave getting hauled off by the gendarmes when he's in court trying to pass off bad handwriting as a get out of jail free card.
Speaking of get out of jail free cards, guys, no bigger get out of jail free card than the one that was just handed down to one Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush is now officially again a Heisman Trophy winner. His Heisman has been given back. How about that?
You know what? I think it's been long overdue. I think we get it. And I think this is a sign that maybe whoever's in charge of that is starting to get the idea of, all right, sometimes you have to make wise, intelligent decisions, not just based on whatever the laws were written like years and years ago. Or we can't always have such a black and white scenario of you're either guilty or innocent and you get it all or nothing at all. It's a shame that some of these other athletes along the way have had to step aside. What isn't it? Who's the Terrell Pryor? Remember the Ohio State quarterback? Wasn't he in the same circumstance where he was signing some things and his career ended because of that? Terrell Pryor's one. Was Maurice Claret? Did he just choose to leave or did he get caught signing something? He was a great freshman running back. Next thing you know, he couldn't come back to school. He goes to the NFL or whatever league it was, and he just couldn't, he couldn't hang on. And the next thing you know, you go from a promising career where maybe you make life-changing money to your life and career were cut short, which only leads me to believe that since we live in a litigious society, Terrell Pryor will now sue for something, and Maurice Claret will sue for something, and they'll try to make money off of somebody.
Well, wait a minute. Shouldn't they?
Shouldn't they sue?
I mean, if the precedent.
That's what I mean.
Right. I mean, well, no, but I mean, right is wrong, and wrong is wrong. Like, I mean, they by the letter of the law, what they did then isn't illegal.
Well, you know what? Everything, a lot of laws have been changed over the last 250 years. So at what point are we going to re-adjudicate everything that happened? Pick your time frame and say, by today's rules,
right? True. And
it's okay to do that.
Right. So we shouldn't relitigate everything. But in this situation, though, you look at a guy's career was potentially destroyed, and I don't know the exact circumstances. You were just recounting. You know it better than I do. But in these two cases, these two people, their career was essentially, like you said, cut short or destroyed by this. And I think that rises to the level of trying to maybe.
Well, Terrell Pryor still went and played in the NFL, and Maurice, he was there. He had a couple of years in the league. He was never a force. Maurice Claret, I think, same kind of path for him. But my question is, so Coach, do we go back? Do we reinstate the Fab Five? Do we reinstate? I mean, where do we draw the line on this?
I'm a Michigan State guy. No on that first one. No. Continue.
I mean, we got to re-examine everything that's been vacated, right? Did Pete Carroll end up vacating anything? Or did he just leave because he was worried he was going to get caught for stuff?
He was one step ahead of the law is what he was.
Yes,
he knew they were breathing down his neck, and he knew it was about done. And so, you know what? I think I'm going to head to the NFL, everybody, and we're going to let USC handle all of the problems that they allowed me to bring to them.
Although now,
so it was
now maybe Papa Pete can go back to USC for a retirement tour.
Yeah, maybe. That's not so bad. I mean, why not do that? Although I think they're happy with the guy they got right now. USC is going to try and compete pretty hard in the Big Ten. But you're right. The question of others who were wronged bringing up that topic because was it the NCAA that gives it to them, or was it who gives them the Heisman Trophy? The New York Athletic Association?
Yeah, I mean, technically, it's the New York Athletic Club that gives out the award. I don't know technically who strips it or who technically reinstated it. I just know that I know that the NCAA was definitely involved with making that decision to say, okay, we can give it back to them. So the bottom line is, it really does start the debate of what else needs to be corrected. And I say let's go ahead and get Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. Let's go ahead and get Joe Jackson, shoeless Joe Jackson.
Well, let's go one at a time. Let's go slow on this one. So you say Pete Rose.
Yeah.
Pete Rose goes in as what? If he goes into the Baseball Hall of Fame, how do you put him in?
Okay. Here's my thing with the Hall of Fame before we get into that specific, right? You've got a sport. Yeah. You've got a sport that has its all-time hit leader, its all-time home run leader, and its all-time Cy Young Award winner leader, not in their Hall of Fame, not in the museum that represents what is the greatest achievements in the history of the sport. How can you have a Hall of Fame without the hit leader, the home run leader, and the guy who won the most Cy Youngs a part of that? It's a museum.
It is a museum, but if you've got those those 3 categories not in? And if you do put those 3 categories in, how do you put them in? Are they in equal to
You put them in,
Babe
period.
Ruth or Joe DiMaggio? Are they equal
Yes.
to Ty Cobb? They're equal to.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And you
Yes.
put an asterisk on there. Everybody's got a plaque.
So then no, that's not equal to, because I don't have an asterisk next to Ty Cobb's
okay.
name, and I don't have an asterisk next to Babe Ruth's name.
Well,
hang on. Well,
okay,
I would-
listen.
So that's what I'm
Well,
asking.
well,
How do
hang
you
on.
put them in?
Okay, so I'm going to play this forward. Let's just say 100 years from now, some 13-year-old kid who's yet to be born, whose parents have yet to be born, makes a trek to Cooperstown and walks through the Hall of Fame and sees Pete Rose, and let's just say that he's still the all-time hits leader of baseball, and he's like, oh, Pete Rose, like he's hearing about Pete Rose for the first time, and at the bottom of the description it says Pete's enshrinement in the Hall of Fame was delayed by 30 years because he was, he was found to have been gambling on the sport. And, whatever. So it's a note, maybe not an asterisk, but it's a note because that's part of the story. Same thing with Clemens. Clemens was delayed in getting in because of
But
his
if I'm going to make, let me make Pete Rose's case. I want to stay slow on this one. I'm making Pete Rose's case. When Pete Rose was a hitter, his gambling didn't affect the game. He was just a hitter. So does he go in with the same asterisk, or does he just go in as a hitter?
Well, no. You've got to put him in.
He
as a
gambled as a
person.
manager. He
Right.
gambled as a manager. So he wouldn't go in as a manager. He'd go in as a hitter.
Well, yeah, but you don't really differentiate. I suppose you do. Bochy's going to go in the Hall of Fame, but he's going to be put in as a manager. But I don't know. Do they really make a distinction? I don't think there's a manager wing and a player wing. At the
No,
Hall
but
of
when you
Fame.
do go in, you go in as something, a contributor to the game, the old timers committee. You go in as a position player, as a pitcher. So Bochy will go in as a manager. I think is Sparky Anderson in it? Sparky Anderson's in as a manager, even though he played the game. But Bruce Bochy made it to a World Series as a backup catcher for the San Diego Padres. So I'm just asking, because I agree Pete Rose should be in. I think he should be in under the guise of he's the all-time leading hit man in Major League Baseball, and part of his plaque, or part of the story outside of his plaque, maybe it's a secondary plaque, is he also bet on baseball as manager of the Cincinnati Reds, and that kept him out of the Hall of Fame for how many ever years it kept him out. I do think it is a museum, and museums tell stories. I understand the victors usually tell history, but in this case, for Pete Rose, he goes in as a hitter because he did great things, and nobody ever questioned whether or not he gambled on games, or no one has proof of him ever gambling on games as a position player.
I agreed. And listen, you can't do a World War II museum without talking about the Nazis and talking about the Japanese, right? It's part of the story. So even though that's the side nobody wants to talk about with Pete Rose and Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, I think they all need to be in. And you do, you put their accolades first, and then you put on there, maybe you do a split rather than just, how they got the one picture on the plaque. Maybe you do a split. One is smiling and the other one is frowning.
Hilarious.
And you have a little,
That's funny.
little
But-
bio under both.
But there's a reason that we have to separate all these people, because I think Pete Rose is clean. Pete Rose did something miraculous as an athlete that no one has ever done, unaided by anything other than coffee and greenies. All right, because that was their drug of choice at the time. They drank gallons of coffee and took some greenies. That's about it. Now, if you want to move to another guy, like you mentioned the all-time home run king, well, now we've got a discussion and a debate as to whether or not Barry Bonds goes in. Because as far as I know, Hank Aaron has never been questioned as to whether or not the guy used a performance-enhancing cocktail to make himself better. And the same thing with the previous guy to him, Babe Ruth. So I think that the Barry Bonds question is a much different question than the Pete Rose question.
Agreed, but I think the universal sentiment on Bonds is that he was a Hall of Famer before he even put on a Giants uniform. And
unfortunately, so was O.J. Simpson.
Wow, and that's
right?
And by the way, I think we
right.
should go in reverse. I think we should strip O.J. of his Hall of Fame status because
Agreed.
You can't
Agreed.
You can't have
Agreed.
a double murderer, You know, you maybe you create a Hall of Shame wing. I don't know, but
wait, Dave. But he was found not guilty by a jury of his peers.
okay. Yeah.
Hold on, my cat's caught in a closet.
Uh-oh, really? I would love to be able to see this.
Sandra. Yes, I'm sorry. What? You locked the cat in the closet.
This is great. This is great. Live radio.
Unbelievable.
6
Live action. I was trying to get the camera over there.
Sandra locked the
Tiramisu.
cat in the closet? Oh,
Yes,
no.
my wife locked the cat in the closet, which is not the worst locking of the cat story that we have in our
What?
family,
Wait, that isn't the worst?
But
including.
here's some breaking news for you though, Coach. That means your
Yeah.
cat is about to come out of the closet.
No, that's true. That's true. I wonder if I can make money off of that. The one time, it was the middle of the night, and the cat, my wife's dresser drawer was left open. Middle of the night, my cat climbs in it because it's nice and warm and snuggles in there. My wife gets up at maybe 3 in the morning for whatever reason to go to the bathroom or
No,
something,
she
sees it
closed
open
it?
and closed it. For more than half a day, we could not
Whoa.
find the cat. And I was getting worried. It was like nighttime. It's like 9 at night. The same, like so 3 in the morning, the drawer is closed. 9 at night, we haven't seen the cat. She goes to get her pajamas or
18
something and
hours
opens it
later.
up. Yeah, exactly. And there's tiramisu staring at her. So
So is she just staring, or did she leap out?
I think she she's like 13 years old, so she's a little slow, but she gave Sandra the what for on what are you doing? Locking me in a drawer for crying out loud.
Jim, I have
And abuse.
Jim, I have before PETA knocks down your door. I have a take on your take. I think there is an asterisk next to Babe Ruth's name, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because Babe Ruth never had to hit against Dominican pitchers, or throw against Dominican hitters, or everybody was white. I mean,
So what's wrong with that?
I'm just saying.
Yeah?
Would you or would you not agree that the athletes, we're not going to specify, just the athletes of today are more talented and better than the athletes of yesteryear?
I would say the athletes. I would say baseball players as athletes are better at athleticism, but I think that there are a number of players from the 1920s who could still play in today's game.
I would say Babe Ruth. Matt, you realize there were years where he individually hit more home runs than the whole rest of the major leagues combined.
Yeah.
Because home runs were not he had a power that
Nobody else had.
Right.
Yeah, he was a home run hitter and no one else was.
But the point is, if he had to pitch to Jackie Robinson, do you really think that he would strike out?
But
Jackie
he
Robinson?
only pitched for a short part of his career. But he was a successful pitcher at that. So that part I can't tell you. But let me ask: Are you saying could he? Your question is, could he have hit Bob Gibson? Could he have hit Dave Stewart?
Right.
I would say yes.
Yeah, I agree. He obviously had the talent, and listen, you're right. Was the rest of the pool back then as competitive as it is now? No, certainly not. I don't think anybody's making that case, but I don't think you can diminish the accomplishments. I don't think you add an asterisk to Babe Ruth because
God.
I was just playing.
That's sickening.
I was just playing devil's advocate because that argument. You can make.
I hate that argument. I hate that argument, and it's to me, it's racist to bring up that argument.
Don't use the R word, please.
Well, I'll be honest.
You kind of took us on that path, Matty.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to use a factor in this, I just think it doesn't make sense. The world is not steeped in it unless you make it that way. Babe Ruth was the greatest of his era. Ty Cobb was the greatest of his era. Oh, by the way, both of them competed against black athletes out of season in different tournaments, in different barnstorming wars. They weren't against playing with and against them. In fact, Ty Cobb, the most misunderstood superstar of all time, actually advocated for black players to play the game.
I'm not saying they were against the integration or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, the fact is, I mean, we can switch sports. And it's not a race thing, but when the Boston Celtics were winning 8 titles in a row, there were 9 teams in the league. And so there's that argument of nowadays, well, how great are those accomplishments? Now, I personally think, I mean, you look at the statistics of Bill Russell and what he did, and nobody's going to equal that. And same thing with Will Chamberlain. But there were 9 teams in the league. So
you can't, but Matt.
So they don't count. So
you
they
can
stunk.
only-
So they were.
you can only.
You're
compete-
JJ Redick.
You can
No,
only
they can't.
play on the. You can only play on the level that is in front of you. Like
I know.
this is. You can't say.
I'm-
You can't say, the UCLA Bruins, all those consecutive NCAA titles that John Wooden won, they really shouldn't count in the record books because there weren't as many teams in the NCAA tournament. I mean, come on.
I'm not saying they shouldn't count. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the argument is there, and I'm not the first one to make it.
Well, I think it's a silly argument, and if the
I know you're not, and the person who was the first one to make it should be banned from any
Yes.
discussion on sports forevermore.
Yeah, I
right.
agree.
It just bothers me. It's what you're doing is it's presentism is what it is, and you're discounting everything else. Usually it's the young who do this, and usually it's those who have a political agenda who do
Everything
this.
has an
Listen,
ism
if
to
you
it
are
now.
an athlete and your numbers bear during your time that it was phenomenal, you should be judged as a phenomenal player, not against what's happening today, for crying out loud. That's just it doesn't. You know what? Then Pete Maravich is the greatest college basketball player in the history of the sport. He did something without the three-point line and still has the highest points per game average in the history of the game, right? But we don't talk about it that way. And in this case, he was not afforded the advantages of all these other guys, right? And we don't talk about him as the greatest. I still think he is, but we don't talk about him as the greatest. I don't know. I just think presentism sucks, and I think people who bring it up should be banned.
Let me ask you this. And
Wait, Matt, save your question. We're overdue for our break. Let's take our first break. Matt's got a burning question when we come back. I want to hear about what other wrongs you guys would right in the sports world with Reggie Bush getting his Heisman back. And later on, we'll talk a little NBA. We also need to get into the NFL draft. John Lynch said something in the 49ers pre-draft press conference that I found very interesting. All that is ahead when we continue here with LFG on a Wednesday.
It's Thanksgiving, and it wouldn't be the holidays without Heinz.
Hey, Dave, what service did you use for your spotter charts?
Together for Thanksgiving.
Broadcaster's Edge.
Whoa, easy there, Greg.
Broadcaster's Edge.
That wasn't me. That was the ketchup bottle.
Are you sure about that, Dad?
Yeah, I'm very sure. I didn't cut a fart at Thanksgiving dinner. I wouldn't do that. It's not who I am.
Yeah, Dad, we know.
It happens every year. The ketchup bottle makes an innocent noise, and everyone thinks you ripped one at the dinner table. They say they believe you, but you know what
is
they're
this?
thinking. It's made every Thanksgiving a living hell. Until now.
It's an SNL
Introducing
spot.
Heinz Relax. The ketchup you know and love without the uncomfortable noise. Now, when you squeeze the bottle, it simply lets out a relaxing sigh. So this Thanksgiving, things will be
Did you
different.
get the whole
Can you pass the ketchup?
program sent to you? Is that how you did
I'm
it?
so grateful to be here.
Broadcaster's Edge?
Yeah.
What was that?
You got the
That's
end.
the soothing sound of Heinz Relax. Looks like this bottle's almost empty.
Kind of sounds like.
A relaxed sigh. I know.
That ain't what that sounds like.
Hey, everyone just relax.
Spare yourself from further embarrassment with our whole family of Heinz Relax products. Glass bottles, mustard, even mayo.
Mom, may I be excused?
Absolutely. Wait, where are you going with that?
My room?
No, put that down.
The boy loves ketchup, just like his old man.
Heinz Relax, now available at your local supermarket. Must be 18 or older to buy.
Take a sip of our freshly squeezed orange juice and let the juicy, sweet liquid run down your throat. The right way to start your day. Perfect for a quick beverage or a family reunion. Your mother definitely won't think you're an embarrassment anymore. Each orange is hand squeezed by myself personally. Yummy orange juice. Make breakfast great again.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius.
Yeah.
Real men of genius.
Today we salute you, Mr. Chinese food delivery guy.
Mr. Chinese food delivery guy.
Without you, we'd be forced to do the unthinkable when we wanted Chinese food. Drive to a restaurant.
A moose you got man.
But you, sir, bring it to us in under 20.
Ride like the wind.
Armed with your rickety bike, you battle traffic, bad weather, and the occasional busted elevator. And why do you do it? Because somewhere a guy is waiting for his Kung Pao crab puffs, and he's got $1.57 with your name on it.
That's 10%.
So crack open an ice cold Bud Light, oh mercenary of the Mandarin chicken, and know that when America is looking for a man to get the job done, you do deliver.
You deliver.
Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
It's the bottom of the hour, or close enough. Time for your Tickscape Studios Sports Update with Matt Fowler.
The Lions and star wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown have agreed to a 4-year, $120 million extension. The contract includes a $77 million guarantee. That's the most guaranteed money for a wide receiver in a single contract in NFL history. For all the latest news, updates, and outtakes, tune in to LFG with Dave Benz, Jim Kozimor, associate producer Bisa, and myself. Now back to LFG.
The myself in that equation is Matt Fowler. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat as I started to talk there. Welcome back to the Wednesday edition. We continue to roll through. So Coz, I said my things that I would reinstate, mostly focus on Major League Baseball and with Reggie Bush getting the Heisman back. What would you like to change? What wrongs do you think need to be righted?
Well, Matt had an intriguing question, didn't he? Didn't Matt have an intriguing question that we were going to come back with?
I did.
Oh, all righty. Ooh.
Easy question, or in my opinion, easy question, easy answer rather. Who would you take if you needed a center for today's NBA game? Who would you take? Would you take peak? They're both at their peak. Would you take peak Shaq, or would you take Bill Russell?
For today's game? For today's game.
If you need,
boy, I might take Bill Russell in that.
If you need
for today's game, the way the game is played today, where they've marginalized the big man.
I would absolutely take peak Shaq. I would
take
Shaq. I mean,
all right. And how many times do you see peak Bill Russell?
I've seen highlights.
I know. How many times have you seen peak Bill Russell play a game? Like, I can go to YouTube and look at the you can get highlights from a high school kid that makes him look like a D1 prospect when he's playing a community college. So, again, you're trying to compare different eras. It's unfair.
Can I take Pete Wilt? Peak Wilt?
Peak Wilt would be a good one.
I'd take Pete Wilt. Peak? Why do I keep saying Pete?
I know. It's
Peak
not easy. It's not
Wilt.
an easy combination.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, Matt, that's an interesting question, but we're talking about things we would fix. What would we change? So, Coz, what do you think you need to?
I would like to change, and I've got two, and they kind of go hand in hand, although I'll start with just one element of it, and that is the transfer portal. I would absolutely change the transfer portal. I might even eliminate it and start over, because I believe the reason we have not seen a public story about the success rates of players who go into the transfer portal is because the numbers on that of guys leaving one school to go to another to become success stories is very small. And we believe, because players have the freedom to go somewhere, that this is the greatest thing that's happened to college sports. And I actually think it is ruining college sports. All you do is root for the school. You have no identification for who the player is. Dalton Knecht was probably the second best player in college basketball, but you only know it because he got to leave his Colorado school, and I don't even know which one it was, Colorado State or Northern Colorado, to come and play in the SEC. And I just don't know if that's good. I don't know if it's good that Northern Colorado recruited him, fed him, gave him top flight things to work out in, practice facilities, weight room, all that stuff for him to benefit. Only when he was about to be his best, he left to go to another program to get more visibility to make more money somewhere else. I just think the transfer portal is doing more hurt to sport than help to sport. I'm not saying we shouldn't allow guys to have movement, but I also think we've got to eliminate it in its current form.
Who was the first big name in the transfer portal?
Bo Nix? I don't know. I'm
Okay,
coming up with one. He was the Auburn starter. His dad was a starter at Auburn. Then he chose to go to Oregon, and we're off and running.
All right. So are we looking at what you're saying? Are we looking at like a Kurt Flood situation? Like, Kurt Flood inspired the whole free agency thing in the pros. Are we looking at that at the college level?
I think that's the way it is. I don't think we should have that. I think if you sign to be, if I sign to play at Notre Dame, I've got to play at Notre Dame. You know when I get to leave? If the guy who recruited me, the head coach who recruited me, says, you know what, I'm leaving to take the LSU job, I think that player should be able to go to another program if they feel they need to, but it cannot be LSU. You cannot follow your coach to go to wherever he's going. You can feel free to go somewhere else because your coach left, and you went there based on that coach being there. He recruited you and told you you're going to start as a junior. So you get a chance to move. But other than that, you sign there, you got 5 years at Notre Dame.
So the NCAA did make a change regarding the transfer portal, but it quietly, it didn't really get a lot of hubbub, but a small change, at least as it pertains to college basketball with the transfer portal, has been implemented. It involves players that are changing in terms of grad transfers. Grad transfers were exempt from the window that goes from March 18th to May 1st for basketball transfers. They could basically be like, they could leave anytime they wanted and go to a new school. So the NCAA now says, no, they have to abide to that window just like everybody else. So it's not going to be as easy for grad transfers to be able to go anywhere they want on a whim. And unless, as you said, Coase, if their coach leaves, then that, gives them a blank check to be able to do what they want. It's not a big change. It's not a big reeling in of a system that has gotten out of control, but it's a step in the right direction.
It is a step in the right direction. And when it gets to the grad transfer portion, when you get to the COVID era where guys are taking 6 years to get through their college experience, I think we eliminate that. Now that we're getting back to normalcy, I think we have to have some normal rules. You pick your school, that's where you go. You choose to leave, that's fine. You choose to leave, but if I want to go from Michigan State and decide to play at Arizona State, and my coach is still at Michigan State, I've got to give up a year.
Well, how about this? I'm just seeing this. This is news. St. Mary's, which is a small school, and Coach, you know it well, it's here in the Bay Area.
Yeah,
they are traditionally, they're not Gonzaga, but they're not far off. They're traditionally a very good team, go to the NCAA tournament on a regular basis.
And get pounded.
Compete.
They always come in. They always come in second in the West Coast Conference and then lose in the first round.
But still, a lot of schools would take that, right? They'd take 20 wins and get into the tournament every year, especially when you're a small school like they are. How about Aiden Mahaney, who's their best player? He is actually out being recruited right now. He visited Creighton already. He's scheduled to visit Kentucky and UConn, and he's also visited Virginia. So, and that's a school, St. Mary's, that has a pretty good history and a pretty good resume. We're not talking about San Jose State or, some small school. We're talking about St. Mary's.
Right. And where is he from?
He's from Danville.
Wow. Amazing. I mean, that is, you could live at home and commute to St. Mary's, for people who are listening who don't know the difference and know exactly what the geography is. But to me, that's ridiculous. St. Mary's spent the time to recruit him. St. Mary's gave him the right facilities to work at. St. Mary's gave him his base to shine. And the minute he gets a chance to shine, because Creighton and UConn and Kentucky didn't pay attention to him a year ago when he was coming out, or 2 years ago whenever he was coming out, the next thing you know, now that he's got a little sunshine, I'm going to go find someplace else. So, cha-ching, I can make a little bit more money.
You were advocating for the opposite of the Kurt Flood thing. You're advocating for the opposite.
Well, I think college and pro are two different items, so we shouldn't lump them together. I'm advocating for a player, when you commit, that's where you play. If your head coach who recruited you leaves, you also can leave because you were under the impression he was going to be there for my 5 years.
Yeah,
if not, you can pick up and leave.
I guess it is different from the pros because in the pros, you get drafted. You have no choice about where you get drafted if you're in the draft. So.
That's fine. That's the way they run their business. You don't want to do that? Don't go into the draft and play in Canada. Don't go into the draft and play in Europe. Don't go into the draft and play in Australia. You can choose to do that. That's how they run their business in the United States.
I'm good. Coach, I agree with you, by the way, but I'm going to present the counter argument.
Sure, go ahead.
The counter argument is, at the end of the day, they're a college student, and your daughters are getting ready to go to college. If they go to college for a year and they decide, you know what, Dad, I don't like it here. This is not where I want to be. I want to go to Florida, or I want to go to whatever. Yeah. They should be free to be able to do that.
Absolutely, and I have that in my proposal, which is, if you choose to do that, fine. You lose a year of eligibility, but you can pick up and go. You can go to Florida. You can practice with them for a full year. Remember, you have a 5th year. Then you can play that next year.
And that's the way it used to be. That's the way it used to be.
Yeah, that's the way it used to be. And I'm absolutely perfectly fine with that. And the other difference to that is, Dave, that I was given a free ride to go there to play if I'm an athlete. My daughters, I'm paying for. That's not a free ride. I write the check. I get to make some of those rules. If the school and the NCAA are writing the check, the school and the NCAA get to write the rules.
I think there should be an in-between.
Sure.
I think
I'm open to it.
I think there need to be criteria. You need to be able to apply. That should be the default. I think go back to the year of sitting out. That should be the default. But there are exceptions, and there need to be, a pretty good – it can't be like, oh, my God, I need to thread a needle – from 100 yards away to be able to get the exception. It needs to be reasonable. Okay, well, I've had, it could, and nobody wants to have a family going through tragedy, but, I've had a family member who has fallen sick and they're in the hospital, and I want to be closer to home. Okay, boom, we're going to let that happen. Now, granted,
I'll buy that. I'll do that.
Will that get abused? Sure, but at least you have something in place versus just having it be the Wild West.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm open to that. That's the other thing. When it comes to these discussions, everyone's A, trying to poke holes, and B, trying to shoot things down, no matter what they are. But I think you have to start with a proposal and then have an adult discussion as to what can and can't work. Can it be improved? Yes. It's like NIL money. NIL money, to me, has crushed college sports, okay? And you can't tell me it's making athletes any better. Yeah, Caitlin Clark made a bunch of money from it, but how many other players didn't? Who's making the most money?
Well, but
the little gymnast from LSU, still the highest paid college athlete, right?
But then we get into that whole we go backwards. We get into that whole argument of, Nick Saban in his Alabama heyday, he was the highest paid public official in the state of Alabama. Alabama makes millions and millions of dollars, off the players, but the players.
No. They make it off the guy they're paying the most money to. They made it off of Nick Saban. That's who they made the money off.
Really?
They're not.
Who do you think Michigan made the money off? They made it off Jim Harbaugh. That was like when Michigan was going for the national title, every commercial promoting their game started with a shot of Jim Harbaugh. It didn't start with what was his name, J.J. McCarthy or whatever that.
Right.
But if the athletes don't throw the touchdowns or catch the touchdowns or hit the 3-pointers, you don't win.
Well, unfortunately, it's a straw argument because here's the one thing that I don't understand: they're given a $250,000 scholarship right from the start, right? So you are getting paid. You're getting a $250,000 scholarship. The athlete is getting something for their athleticism. And by the way, they're getting to train at the top flight institutions. They should be getting a top flight education. They should be training at top flight training facilities. And therefore, some of them, small percentage, will go on to a professional career and make very good money. Others have the ability for free to get an excellent education and have a career. That's something that some of those athletes wouldn't have had the opportunity to do.
Yeah, but
But it doesn't matter, right? See, that's the thing that I always get. Oh, yeah, but education doesn't matter. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
No,
You're telling me education's everything in the world.
No, education, no, it does matter. But you take a look and you go, what has this athlete done to put the university on a level to be able to rake in money? And there's a lot of those athletes. How valuable was Shaq to LSU?
Well, he was only there for a year. So, not as valuable as you would think.
I would say Dale.
Dale,
what was his name?
Dale
what?
Layer. Was it Dale Layer? No, Dale Layer was another coach. It was Dale.
And it wasn't Dale Ellis, the great three-point shooter. It wasn't
Dale Ellis. Oh, God.
It wasn't Dale Berra,
no,
Yogi Berra's son.
Berra.
Who are great Dales of our time.
How valuable was Michael Jordan
Dale
to
Smith.
North Carolina? I mean,
who?
How valuable was Michael Jordan to North Carolina?
You know what? Unfortunately, not as valuable as Dean Smith.
Dale Brown.
Dale Brown, not Dale Smith. Dale Brown, thank you. Not as much as the head coach who was there for 30-some years.
Yeah, Dale Brown got LSU to 4 Final Fours. How many did Shaq get him to?
Yeah, exactly. And on the Michael Jordan case, Michael Jordan went on to have a fabulous career. He did wonderfully.
Okay. Michael did.
Yeah, he did okay. And that's the way the system works. He was given an opportunity at a place by a head coach, and he took that using excellent facilities and an excellent coach and an excellent place to play and excellent travel in first-class hotels to then become a pro and make even more money. So it worked out for him.
But how many athletes? I brought this up on the call, and Dave promptly said, "We don't have time for all your crap."
That's not what he said, but he should have. He should have said that. You know what? I would have applauded if he would have said that, but go ahead.
How many athletes get into the NBA there's 400 athletes, I think 400 or 450 that get into the NBA every year. And
most of those slots are already taken.
Right. And
it's not 450 new guys.
Yeah, it's 450 total.
Right. And my point is, I think everybody looks at these D1 players and automatically thinks, a lot of people, they don't understand how it works. Like the level between college and the NBA, we'll just use basketball as an example. It's night and day. And so a lot of these D1 athletes that are really good in college have no shot at the pros in making money. They should be able to make some money.
And they get a degree in order to have a career.
I have zero problem with NIL money. What I have a problem with is NIL money being not there being no constraints on it. There needs to be a better system. It can't just be like, oh, let's go get Aiden Mahaney from St. Mary's. He'll look good in a Kentucky uniform. Let's throw him $700,000 and we'll just build our team. It shouldn't be that easy. It shouldn't just be complete unabashed free agency. The players deserve to be able to make money based upon their talents. I don't have any doubt, but and I don't know what the parameters are, but I just know that it's an issue. And then here's the other side of the coin, Coz, that I mentioned on the call. John Lynch brought this up in his press conference the other day with the 49ers, talking about the NFL draft and how the NIL has affected the 49ers and by extension of that, the entire league, with NIL now changing the way that players are looking at the draft. Here's what John Lynch had to say 2 days ago.
It's going to be an interesting year. I think it's an interesting draft class. I was just looking at my notes and like one interesting thing to me, dynamic and the way of the world right now, we put a grade on players in the fall if we think there's a chance they're going to be a more than 50% chance that they're going to be in this draft. So 83 players from this year's class that we put grades on. So thinking there's more than a 50% chance, thinking they're entering the draft, are back in college because of NIL and things like that. There's now a different route these kids can take. And some as 35 of those with starter grades. So that's a significant amount, and how that affects this draft, it's going to be interesting. I think the later rounds probably going to be lacking. So it's a new dynamic, that one that I imagine we're going to be faced with each year. I mean, you can go back and make $1 million. I don't know if that's the going rate, but it is providing competition, and that's a significant amount of players.
So that's pretty interesting stuff out of John Lynch. I mean, nobody really thinks about that, but the trickle-down effect that it's going to have. And I think it's going to be more so in football than it is in basketball, because I feel like basketball, first of all, it's only 2 rounds, and the players that are good enough to make the NBA are probably going to be able to make more money in the NBA right away. But if you're a star player, I mean, I think we talked about this before on the show. Marvin Harrison Jr. is in the NFL draft, but I think it was Shannon Sharp made a great case saying that he would have been probably better off going back to college for 1 more year, because he could have definitely made 7+ figures going back to college, and because of the NFL rookie pay scale, he's not going to make as much money right away. So it is interesting to see how it's going to affect things. And does this kind of dilute the back end of the NFL draft? Are teams going to be able to find as many good players as they've been able to find in the past?
And you wonder if the National Football League will change its salary structure for incoming players, because they do have a salary structure. You're taken first, you're a quarterback, you're in this slot. You're second, third, fourth. It just goes down from there. Well, maybe they start to add some numbers to the 5th, 6th, 7th round guys, because if what John Lynch says is true and other teams do the same homework and the league that does the analytics, and they realize within 5 years, hey, we used to find gems in the late rounds. It ain't happening now, and guys are staying more in college, although quite frankly, if I'm the NFL, I probably want guys to stay more in college. Well, let me rethink that.
There's the
do you
allure
want
of the
that?
NFL, though. I mean, there's the allure of the NFL, and regardless of how much money it is, guys want to go to the NFL because they know.
If you can make $1 million at Iowa, or you can make $500,000 playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Matt, what are you going to do?
I'd go play for the Buccaneers.
Really? Your chances
You'd give up
of
half
getting hurt?
$500,000. Then you come from money. If that's what you choose to do, then you come from money.
No,
right?
because either way, I'm getting $500,000.
Yeah, but you're getting $1 million at Iowa.
You're getting $1 million to go to class
there's
and play
more of
11 games instead of 20.
Yeah.
There's more of a ceiling, though, in the NFL.
More of a ceiling of what?
You can go higher in the NFL.
Well, yeah, but you can go there. You'll still.
Yeah,
have
but you
time
can do
if
that
you're
the
good
next
enough.
year.
Yeah.
You can make your $1 million and then the next year get into the NFL. You're giving up $500,000.
I really find it hard to believe, Matt, if you were a left tackle at Iowa, okay, and you were projected to be a second-round NFL draft pick.
If you were let's be realistic.
Let's say
if you were holding for extra points at Iowa, and you were making $250,000 versus going to the NFL to hold for extra points. Go ahead, Dave. Make your case.
Yeah, you would really stay. You would really go. You really say, I'm going to take half the money and go to the NFL because I want to say I'm in the NFL. Versus I'm going to stay on campus and be a big man on campus and get to be still be a kid. Which, by the way, it transitioning to being a full-on adult and not.
I will say I missed that. I will say I missed that aspect of college. I do.
I think that they're, the one thing during the NCAA tournament, LeBron James came out and said, the only thing he misses about not having gone to college is he does often think about what it would have been like to play in the NCAA tournament. So a lot of these college kids, they want to stay in college. But they feel like they have to go to the NFL. And listen, I think it's probably in the short term, maybe it does affect the NFL. Maybe there's not as many good picks. But I think in the long term, I do think it's better. You get more grown men coming into the league who are ready to be NFL players versus guys that are just coming in, because they're going in for the paycheck and they haven't really had a chance to grow up yet.
You know what? I think that the portal and NIL combined, I think that you really have to review them and change them drastically in order for this to work out. Because right now, I don't see a benefit for athletes I don't. If there was a massive benefit for all athletes, we'd know about it, because the way the writer is today, they're only looking to portray athletes in the positive light and them making more money as a good thing versus opportunity. I honestly don't think leaving St. Mary's to play at Creighton has done you any better. I don't think it certainly hasn't done any good for St. Mary's College. And every other guy that goes into the portal. When I was doing games in the Pac-12, I remember Cal had a guy, lefty jump shooter. He was their leading scorer, and the team stunk. But you know what? He decides to pick up and go to Utah, and that was his third stop along the way. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. How is this good for you as a player? Because that guy ain't in the NBA right now, all right? Got news for you. Don't know what he's doing. Could be a doctor for all I know, but I'm going to guess that he's not, all right? Because you're jumping around all these different schools. How do you even get yourself on a track to have a career? Because once your 5 years are done and you've gone to 4 different schools, you can't tell me you've got your degree or you're in a better place to move forward in another career outside of your sport.
Amen to that.
I win.
Coach wins. There you go. Let's hand him the trophy.
What you people think?
And what bothers me most are all these crazy theoreticians who say that everyone must get an education. You must get a college education. And then when I point out, well, they're getting paid $250,000 in free education at a higher end school, they say that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't count. That doesn't good. What do you mean? You spend the rest of your life telling me I got to get an education at a higher end institution, and then the minute I point out it has a value, it doesn't count. So, listen, if you want to be a grown-up and have an adult conversation, we can come up with a better system. It won't be perfect, but don't let perfect be the enemy of better. I'm on a roll right now. You guys want to take the rest of the day off? I'm on a roll.
Well, class is dismissed with Professor Kozimor over here.
Yeah, I know. You know what? I went to my daughter's economics class, and the teacher was teaching them some things, and I was aghast. And at the end of the class, I went up to the teacher, and I asked some pointed questions about some of the things she was teaching. And she said, I hadn't thought of that. And she goes, I didn't know about that. And I'm like, well, that's an essential element to what you're teaching in economics. Just saying.
What were they teaching?
So they were talking about how there was, after the Great Depression, there was tremendous unemployment. Right. And the numbers were immense. Let's say 40% of Americans were unemployed. I'm just randomly using a number.
Yeah, I think it was like 25%.
Yeah, I was going to say 36, but whatever the number is, you could say whatever number you want. It doesn't really matter. And then they decide to get into the war, and the next year, because of the war, unemployment went to 1%. And there were so many jobs women had to work. Well, the fact is, the people who weren't working, who had no jobs, went into the service and fought for the country. They didn't create jobs for these people. They put them in a different category. So they didn't change the economy, okay? They took them off the payroll of companies is what they did. So and I said, so how did they account for those people who went into the service and fought? She goes, yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. I said, so really they didn't get jobs. They went from unemployed to I'm going into the service. So you have to teach it properly in order for kids to understand what economics are.
Technically, though, that's a job. I mean,
but it's not. No. That's not job creation, though.
True. That's not job creation. No.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, well, listen. Let's pause it there because we're at our top of the hour.
No, I've got more economics thoughts, Dave.
Yeah. Okay.
What's our phone number?
It's 620-262-9548 because we haven't really taken the time to change it yet. But if you want to call or text, Matt, do you have the text line open? Can we get a text?
Text that number.
All right. So let's see if we can get anybody to text.
I don't think we know the number. Dave just said it, but I don't think we know it.
It's up on the screen. 620-262-9548.
And Dave said it in disgust.
Well, where is area code 620?
Where do you see it? I'm looking at our thing. I don't see it.
That's because you're not looking at the YouTube stream. You're just looking at
you're
our
okay.
Riverside studio.
Yeah.
But the folks at home can see it. They can see it. They can
Can
see
I put it on the stream?
What?
Can I put it on the YouTube stream?
You could put it on the YouTube stream. Yeah.
You just got to be sure to mute it so you don't hear yourself twice.
Yeah. But yeah, you could put
All
it
right,
on the YouTube
let me
stream.
do that.
And I'm playing a little NFL music because we
Oh,
are
then
going
I
to talk
can't
about
hear
the
you
draft.
clowns.
We are going to talk about the draft coming up on the other side. I'm going to pose it in an interesting way. I got an interesting way to look at it. And then coming up, also midway through next segment, we will be joined by Chris Hine, who covers the Minnesota Timberwolves, as we will talk about their 2-0 start.
Don't play it. Don't play it. Don't play
to
it.
the NFL playoffs. And all
Hey,
right.
wait, is Karl Anthony Towns back or not?
Oh, yeah, he's been back. Yeah, Cat's back.
All right.
Wolves back. Cat's back. So all that coming up on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Wednesday
Well, I get
edition
facts and facts.
of LFG. You won't get ad facts. No, that unfortunately won't happen. Back with more
Anthrax or
after this.
anthrax?
That sucks.
Which wait, play the
This election, your choice couldn't be more important. Our candidate is in flattering lighting and full bright color. Their candidate is in grainy high contrast black and white, spotted through a telephoto lens from behind a bush, coming back from God only knows where. Our guy points at the horizon and holds a baby. Their guy doesn't have a baby. Their guy has a golf club. The voiceover for our guy is calm, measured, bright. Their guy gets the lower register, and
It's
sometimes
YouTube/@LFG Radio.
our guy has clean headlines and the beautiful lens flare America needs. Here's a scary graph over a photo of their guy awkwardly laughing. Snap zoom. Do you want a snap zoom like that in office? Here's a
Somebody's
photo
stealing
of
our
our
bit,
guy
Coz.
saluting military veterans. Jump cuts, flashes, static, aggressive colors. You can't trust a guy with graphics like this. Our guy gets stock footage
Did you
of
find it?
sunrises and an American flag. Their guy's flag is upside down
No,
and
it's just
on
at
fire.
LFG
Intercut
Radio.
with overdue bills, war, and a crying baby. Our guy gets doctors and
Oh,
astronauts
yeah,
and stimulus
620-262-9548.
checks. Flatline, an eagle.
Go to
hurricane,
live
the
when you're on
Statue
the
of
LFG
Liberty,
radio
crime
page.
scene
Go to
tape,
live.
Ronald Reagan. A girl running in a wheat field to escape a dangerous sexual predator. Wielding atomic bomb. This election, the choice is yours. Their guy or our guy. Inspiring slogan.
Are you tired of low energy? Well, look no further. Introducing Trump's Fitness, the greatest gym you've ever seen, just like me. Unlike Sleepy Joe's gyms, we believe in results, not excuses. At Trump's Fitness, we believe in winning. Our equipment is top-notch, our trainers are the best, and our members are winners just like me. Don't settle for second best. Join Trump's Fitness today and make fitness great again. Remember, we're the heavyweight champions, leaving Biden's gyms in the dust. It's time to take back your power. You can do anything, so go grab them by the dumbbell.
Bud Light presents Real Men
Matt,
of
coming back
Genius.
after this. Coz, I'll send you the link. It should be in the last
Today we
pizza
salute
tweet.
you, Mr. Bowling Shoe
Okay.
Giver Outer. Your tireless efforts keep our feet comfy and sanitized with mountain freshness. Instinctively, you match left shoe with right, carefully placing each pair in its own tiny shoe house. One wrong move, and we're on the fast train to Blisterville. Is he a 9.5 or a 10? You know. Why? Because you're Mr. Bowling Shoe Giver Outer. So crack open an ice cold Bud Light, mister, and know it's no accident those
Yeah, you
shoes
couldn't
are
find more
red,
random numbers than our
white,
call and
and
text
blue.
number.
Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
Are you ready? Let's do it. Live from the Tickscape Studios. Let's f***ing go.
Welcome to the second hour, the Wednesday edition of LFG. Dave Benz, Jim Kozamore, happy to have you along.
Professor Jim Kozamore.
He is.
I know.
Professor
I should
Jim
have. I
Kozamore.
should have an honorary second degree, honorary secondary degree.
Yeah. So
You
during
and
our
Shaq
breaks,
can be doctors together.
during our breaks, I've been, just trying to pull up, I'm literally going to YouTube and typing in mock commercials, and the two ads that I've run, one for Trump orange juice and one for Trump gyms, they've both been AI. That's crazy. They're AI commercials.
Where do you find that stuff?
I just told you. I said I'm going to YouTube and been typing in mock commercials.
You go at YouTube, you just type in mock commercials and that's what pops up?
Yes, that's what's popping up.
Golly, AI, that is amazing. And I don't mean in a good way, but that is amazing.
Yeah, AI can create anything. Anyway, so we continue through. We will have our Hump Day Handle segment coming up in a few minutes. Chris Hine from the Minneapolis Star-Tribune will join us. But, guys, I do want to get back to not economics. I do want to get back to the NFL as we talk about the NFL draft coming up. And, my question is this. You can go to a lot of shows, and a lot of people are going to break down who should be the best, who should be the number one pick. I think everybody knows it's going to be Caleb Williams, but then who should be the number 2 pick? Who's going to make trades? I want to look at it like this. Who in this year's NFL draft would you pay money to get, like, if, Donruss and Panini, they'll put out these special NFL rookie collection cards, and in some cases it'll be like a 1 of 1 or a 1 of 10, and these are the rookie cards that really will become ultra valuable. If you were going to drop some coin on a player in this year's NFL draft, it's saying, you know what, this is the guy who I think in 10 years his rookie card is going to have the most value. Who jumps out at you? Who jumps off the page? Who do you think is going to end up being the best player out of this year's NFL rookie class?
Ooh, that is a tough one because everyone wants to jump to the quarterbacks. Caitlin Clark. That's hilarious. That card will be
I think
worth
Matt
anything.
has a secret crush on Caitlin Clark.
Well, she's already spoken for it, isn't she? Doesn't she have a main squeeze?
Don't tell my girlfriend. But yeah.
I think you just told your girlfriend. She listens to the show, doesn't she?
She does.
All right.
She's okay with it. Don't worry.
Oh, I'm sure she's having fun with it. But yeah, Caitlin Clark's got a man in her stable.
Yeah, isn't he actually an assistant? I think he's an assistant coach with the team in Minnesota, who I will not say the name of, because you make fun of me for it.
The Timberwolves.
Yes, I think
her boyfriend is a Timberwolves assistant.
Coach? Who is it?
Or an assistant with. He's an assistant on some NBA team, and I thought it was Minnesota.
Who is it?
Really?
Hang on. Let me. I will figure it out. Hang on.
This is another point in the LFG kind of a time frame of show where we just kind of say stuff, whether it's true or not doesn't matter. it just means something more to the story. So I'm pro this.
So, Coz, while Matt looks up that burning information about the boyfriend of Caitlin Clark, do you have a thought? Who do you love in this draft to be in 10 years to be a potential Hall of Famer? Because for the rookie card to be that good, they're going to have to be on a Hall of Fame track.
Clearly, it's not an offensive lineman, right? I mean, there might be an offensive lineman. Joe Alt may go to the Hall of Fame. He may be better than his father in the National Football League, but that's not the sexy name you're looking for, right?
So you're not looking.
I mean, you're
not looking for Troy Fatanu.
Fa'atunau. There's one name in there that I have no concept how to say, and if I'm doing the NFL next year, I will pass it on to color analysts.
Yeah, in general, historically, offensive linemen rookie cards are not very valuable.
Now, Panay, you don't have your Panay Sewell from a few years ago when he was taken in the first round by the Lie-Downs?
I don't. I'm trying to think who is the I can't believe I'm drawing a blank, but who was the
Anthony Munoz?
That's who I was thinking of. The offensive lineman from the Bengals. His rookie card's worth a couple of bucks. But
okay, so I have the answer to our question. By the way. Connor McCaffrey
is an assistant for who?
Is a team assistant for the Indiana Pacers.
Okay. All right.
Oh, so she's going to the Fever.
It just
that is interesting. That is
worked out that way.
That is interesting. When did he get hired?
he got hired. He said after graduating the University of Iowa in 2023, McCaffrey took a job with the Indiana Pacers.
Okay.
So just
when did the Fever know they were going to have the top pick? This is all lining up.
Yeah, that's a good one. You know what? Here's how they did it. I think here's how they did it. They hired him at the Pacers, and then they told the Fever, "You guys are going to tank. You guys tank it as much as you can that year."
No, because wait, the WNBA finals. The WNBA finals is at the end of August, because it starts in May. The season starts in May, so they would know.
Actually, WNBA finals are probably pushed back this year because they'll be taking an Olympic break.
Okay, this year, but last year, because he graduated. You graduate in May May or June, depending on your system that you're on with school, and the WNBA season is just underway at that point, and so I don't think they know who gets the number 1 pick until the playoffs, because they have to figure out who's going to be in the lottery, right?
Is there a WNBA lottery? I mean, they get started before the playoffs because
but you would graduate school in May or June, and that's when the WNBA season starts, though.
Well,
no, but how about if we piece together this way? How about if they said, "Listen, we know Caitlin Clark's coming up. We're going to tank." They tank the season. Then see the application from the boyfriend, and he writes on the application, "I'm the boyfriend of Caitlin Clark." They hire him as the transitionary move. Although I would say that's gutsy. How many of us had boyfriends in college, and that didn't exactly last?
I for one have never had a boyfriend in college.
I've never
or
had
at
a
any point
boyfriend
in my life
either. But college or
I'm assuming
ever,
we have more than just men, because you're misogynists. I'm assuming we had more than just men, and we could have some non-straight men listening to our program right now.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And I tip the cap to you. I tip the cap to you, sir.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that, but that's just not.
Oh, by the way, speaking of, I'm totally going to digress. Not not that there's anything wrong with that. Have you guys seen? I went down a YouTube hole the other night, and
you do that a lot.
Yeah, I do. And
yeah,
I saw 90 minutes worth of Seinfeld bloopers. And I'd never seen it before. These were like outtakes. I don't know who put it up or where they got them from, but these were outtakes because they did tape the show in front of a live audience, and these were outtakes of them, just messing up in front of an audience, and like there were times when they couldn't stop laughing. They all got cases of the giggles. It was great. It was so awesome to watch.
That's cool.
Have you ever seen
that sounds
Seinfeld
cool.
Have you ever seen Seinfeld do stand-up? You ever seen Jerry?
Yes, I have seen him live twice. He's fantastic.
Me too. He is funny.
I've only seen the video shows, like when his specials, but I've never been in the room with him.
Have you seen Dave Chappelle do stand-up?
Yes, I've seen him do stand-up live as well.
Really?
Dang,
funny.
look at you. Have you seen Steve Martin? Did you see Steve Martin do live stand-up?
No, I never saw Steve Martin do live stand-up.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite Dave Chappelle skit?
I'm Rick James.
That's
bitch.
a tough one. What one? Wait, what one was that?
I'm Rick James, bitch.
I'm Rick James, bitch. That's a good one. Mine is probably, and I don't even know. Yeah, it's a Chappelle show skit. And that is the best.
There's never a bad time to play that drop.
You are correct. You are. I did. My favorite is Charlie Murphy explaining how they to his house and played basketball is, to me, possibly the greatest sketch that they ever did. And I got to interview Charlie when I was hosting Sports Talk Live, and it was very interesting. It was really, really cool. But have you guys ever seen that one? That is freaking awesome.
I don't know if I have seen that one, but
you got to look it up, because Prince. Did you know this? I think Prince won the state championship in high school as a basketball player, and he's like 5'4". He was this unbelievable point guard. He actually balled, and they were at a party, and Charlie Murphy and his crew, they go up to Prince, and they see Prince start talking about going up to see him and saying hi, and Prince says, "Oh, I like your stuff," and then they invite him back to his house to go play basketball.
Well, hey.
And it is a great skit.
Coach, hold that thought, because speaking of Prince, we are going to the
Oh,
city.
I bet Chris Hine.
We're going to the city that gave us Prince, Minneapolis,
Yes.
Minnesota. And Chris Hine, who has never been confused for Prince, although maybe he sings like Prince.
How about Chrissy Hine? How about Chrissy Hine, the great Chrissy Hine? Have you been mistaken for Chrissy Hine?
No, never.
Oh, okay.
Nobody who's ever heard me sing would ever do that either.
Can you crush it at karaoke, though, Chris?
I have a limited range, so I know what songs are in my limited karaoke range, and those I can pull off. Anything else beyond that, forget it.
Where are you coming
That's
to
solid,
from
though.
right now?
That's solid.
Are you at
This is our newspaper office.
Oh, okay.
This is at the Star Tribune. We just had a staff meeting, so I kind of went into we have these little cubicles and rooms where we could do stuff like this, do interviews and things like that. So I'm in one of those. I'm not locked in a cell somewhere. I can promise you
Chris,
that.
we have to let our producer Matt know a newspaper is something that people, they write stories and then these young people, they deliver it to your house and it's on your driveway in the morning. So just so you know what a newspaper
Chris,
is.
you just popped in. We were just discussing our favorite Dave Chappelle skits. Do you have one?
Oh man, yeah, the Charlie Murphy ones are awesome. We used to watch that all the time back in high school and in college. You know, one of the things I always reference is like when Keeping It Real goes wrong.
Yes.
Like I kind of like those. I don't know, I don't know why that one just sticks out to me. God, there were so many. Just what a show that was. Like,
Was there one called the White Person's Draft? Was it the White Person's Draft?
It was the racial
or the
draft.
ethnic
Yes,
draft?
No, it was the racial
real draft.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was funny. That was. I don't think you. could
Bill
get
Burr
away
was a
with
writer
that.
on that show.
I don't think you could get away with that today. That is, yeah.
Absolutely not.
That's what made that show so good. He did make fun of all races.
Yeah, he pushed the limits for sure. Anyway, Chris Hine is the Timberwolves beat writer for the Minneapolis Star Tribune. I've known Chris for a number of years. Chris, how many years have you been? Is it 6, 7 years?
This is my 6th year on the beat. It's longer than I've ever covered anything in my career. It's crazy.
Yeah, and for
So a lot of free hotel nights in Marriott's. Is that what we got? A lot of Marriott points booked.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes I'm like George Clooney's character in Up in the Air. I think every sports writer feels that way sometimes. Or when you work in this industry, it's like you're like lifetime platinum. I was like 35 years old and I was lifetime platinum in Marriott. You know, it's crazy.
And this year you're getting a shortened vacation. It looks like this team may, for the first time since '04, actually win a playoff series and maybe even go further. And obviously, you know, they have to win a road game in Phoenix. Phoenix wins Game 3, and everything could start looking a lot different. But right now, it's looking pretty good. They absolutely were dialed in last night against the Suns, and Jaden McDaniels was absolutely dynamic.
Yeah, I think that's what has been most stark about this series so far is not just that the Wolves have won, it's the way that they've won. And it looks like they just defeat the Suns. By the end of these games, the Suns look tired, they look gassed, they look just utterly defeated. And I think that's a testament to how the Wolves have played defense so far in this series, especially Jaden McDaniels in particular, chasing around Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, making their life miserable. I just think the way that the Wolves have played defense, I don't think the Suns were quite ready for this. And they had 2 days to adjust to it between games 1 and 2, and they didn't really come up with any good answers. So I think just given the tenor of this series right now, I think the Wolves have their number at this moment. You can just kind of tell from being there, watching body language, and just seeing how the Suns responded. They had no answers to how this Wolves team plays defense.
Chris, there are a lot of cliches in the NBA. One of them is you have to lose before you can win, and you have to see what it's like to get there. I think we're starting to see a real changing of the guards. Golden State Warriors and their stars are out. LeBron and the Lakers aren't exactly powerhouses anymore. Durant and company starting to fall off. Are we seeing the young Bucks starting to turn things around? And maybe it started with Denver a couple of years ago, and Oklahoma City is up there now, and Minnesota is up there now. Are you thinking that we're about to see a changing of the guard of where the excellence in the NBA is being played, and maybe the Timberwolves are at the forefront of all this.
I think that's absolutely right. I think, at some point there is going to be a generational shift in the NBA, and we're going to get away from, seeing these, like the Stephs and LeBrons, and to another extent, Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, these kind of players always being in the conference finals and the NBA finals to, Anthony Edwards and his team might make a run. We've seen Boston make a finals run before with some of their young stars, and Denver wins the title last year with Jokic and a young Jamal Murray. So it's like I do think that we are seeing it in real time right now, and that's one of the themes I think of the first round and the early part of the playoffs is, like you said, Steph is out, LeBron and his Lakers are down 0-2, KD and the Suns are down 0-2. It's trouble right now for a lot of these kind of names and faces that we've been used to around the league, and I think the youth of the league is finally maybe catching up with these guys a little bit.
I can't help but notice, Chris, while you're talking, Matt Fowler is having a hard time keeping a straight face. What are you laughing at, Matt? What is going on that's so funny?
Sometimes you just think of things that make you laugh. I mean, I don't know where to go with that, but no, I mean, sorry. I mean,
Matt, full disclosure, Chris, Matt is a huge Warriors fan, and I think he's probably thinking Steph isn't done yet. Is that what you're laughing at, Matt?
No,
Steph isn't done.
Yeah, well, okay, so Chris, Jim, he goes
Sure.
there immediately. He goes. In his example, he goes, well, Steph and the Warriors, they're out. Well, okay, they're out for this year. Like, damn, man. I mean, and listen, I get it. The Wolves deserve...
Dude, they were the 10th
Wolves. See,
seed.
by the way, you just said it again. You just said Wolves. We give Matt such a hard
Wolves.
time, Chris. He cannot say Wolves. He said Wolves. He says Wolves all the time.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I know.
Anyway, I'm the only one out of the other two besides you and I, Chris, that are being professional on this show. But so they deserve their flowers, but do you think, because I mean, you're right, in these two games they've looked absolutely dominant, but there's a thing with Minnesota sports teams, and I hate to be the one to bring it up, but you know what I'm talking about, Chris.
Wow. This is terrible.
There's a thing with Minnesota sports teams. One of my good friends, Ben, that I worked with in radio in northern Minnesota, he's a huge Twins fan, and when the Twins make playoffs, I go, "Are you excited?" He goes, "Not really." And so it's just ingrained.
They're great fans. There are great fans, and the people are great.
Yeah, Chris, do you think that this is going to be, this time it'll be different? And that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win the championship, but this time they're going to really do some serious damage and earn, that respect of, okay, we're here to stay and this isn't a fluke.
I hear you. I think the team, these guys on this team are not really aware of that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's something for the fan base to think about and kind of rattle around in their heads. I don't think like Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, guys like this are sitting around saying, "Oh man, we have to beat this Minnesota sports curse," or whatever it is that hovers over this city. I don't think they're even aware of it, quite frankly. So I don't know that it's really going to affect them. Look, they've lost in the first round each of the last two seasons, so they've been.
Well, the only reason I say that is because, and this is a long time ago. Well, I mean, recent history, you just kind of try and forget it. But there was when they made the play-in a few years ago, Patrick Beverley, and they were celebrating like they won the championship, and TNT was making fun of him and everything. And I do think that some of that was a little bit warranted. I mean, I did think, okay, let them have their moment. But I did think, you're crying, you're hugging your, the families around the court. Like, what are you doing? You made the playoffs. You didn't win the championship.
But you know what now? But listen, they're 2 years removed from that now. So
True.
They've had 2 years of growth and maturity to where, okay, just getting in the playoffs isn't good enough now for this franchise. They've had a few playoff warts now accumulating to where I think you kind of need that to say, okay, getting to the playoffs just isn't good enough anymore. We need to do something in the playoffs. And I think having that now, having those 2 years of losing maybe has fueled them and given them some much needed experience and perspective. Whereas 2 years ago, just making the playoffs after the play-in, maybe they didn't have that kind of perspective 2 years ago, but now they have it.
Yeah, and 2 years ago, Chris, I think they were probably a better team than Memphis. They just didn't know how to close games. So that was,
they were very immature 2 years ago.
Yeah, and what's been the biggest change, Chris, the last couple of years, and how much credit should Finchie get for all this? I mean, obviously, Ant maturing and growing even more, I'm sure, is a big part of it. But how much credit are you giving Finch for where this team is right now?
I think you give him a really healthy dose of it because he and his staff, along with Rudy Gobert, it's a very collaborative process, the way that they play defense and the kind of the schemes and things that they have asked of Rudy. Rudy Gobert is playing defense in a way that he really hasn't played before in his career or wasn't asked to play when he was in Utah. So I think just given the versatility and the dynamic with which they play defense, that's a real coaching staff win for the Wolves because they are so versatile on the defensive end of the floor and because they can play multiple ways. They are not just one monolith, one scheme, one strategy when it comes to defense. They can vary it up, and I think that's what makes them so effective. So I think that's a lot of that is coaching and getting players all on the same page, getting them to listen to game plans and scouting reports and saying, hey, when this personnel is on the floor, we're going to play like this, and when this personnel is on the floor, we're going to play a different way. That is not easy to do in the NBA, and the Timberwolves, throughout this 2-year process of having Rudy Gobert, have been able to do that, and not a lot of teams can say that they can play defense that way. And I think that's been the secret key to their success is the multiple ways they can play defense.
Chris, as much success as Minnesota's having, and they are filling the young talent is exciting, there's an off-the-court story that I wonder if it plays into what's happening right now. By the NBA Finals, will we know who the actual owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves are? And is that affecting any of the day-to-day workings of the team on the court?
I don't think we're going to know that by the NBA Finals. I think we're going to have a long legal arbitration legal process play out here over the next several months. And so if they were to make a finals run, I don't think this is going to get resolved in the next 2 months. I think it's going to be kind of status quo where it is now as Mark Lurie and Alex Rodriguez make their case to say that they had all of their T's crossed and I's dotted in terms of the transaction that was supposed to go down in late March. But I think a good example of that, I talked to some of the players, right as the stuff was breaking in late March, and I think Mike Conley had a good perspective on it. He's like, some of us may see the news or like the ESPN push alerts or whatever, and we'll look at it and say, oh, damn, that's crazy. But then they got to get back to practice. They got to get back to their workouts. They got to get back to their treatment. And I think, as Chris Finch kind of said, it doesn't really affect everybody down at troop level, quote unquote. For the rest of this season, I don't think it's really affected the players at all. I think more of those questions will come in the off season as it pertains to who's going to be footing the bill, for the roster, and if they, go into the luxury tax pretty heavily as they're projected to be. But as of right now, for this run, for this 4 weeks, 6 weeks, however long this takes, I don't think the ownership news really affects how the team performs on a day-to-day basis. I think that's more for fans and people like us to talk about and worry about than the team itself.
Chris, are Mark
Can you
and
ask
Alex
Conley what Greg Oden's doing?
Yeah.
Ask Mike Conley
He's
what Greg
coaching.
Oden's doing now.
Conley's Oden's
Is he?
coaching now. Yeah, he's coaching. I think he's coaching high school somewhere back in Indiana. I thought I had heard that.
Good for him.
Chris, I'm
the
curious.
former number one overall pick.
Are A-Rod and Mark Lurie at the games? Are they? I mean, is it frosty between them and Glenn? Like, what's that atmosphere like right now?
They're there. They're sitting across from each other. They have for each of the last couple of games here, going back to late in the regular season. So everybody's there. I think what's interesting about this dynamic and covering it from a journalistic perspective is everybody went on the record when it all happened, right? There hasn't been a lot of sources say this, sources say that, that hasn't already been said on the record by either Glenn or Mark and Alex. So I feel like in some ways the lines of demarcation have been drawn. We know what each side has said and thinks, and now it's just really up to the legal process to play out and determine who's right and who's wrong.
Who do the fans want? Is there? I mean,
that's so hard. That's so hard to quantify. You know, I don't know, and it would be really hard to say. You know, there haven't been like in the arena, like there haven't been like any like sell the team Glenn or any, like, there hasn't been any of that in the arena like since this has all happened. So if you're just trying to gauge the fan temperature, I think it's very hard to gauge that right now.
Well, Chris, the thing with, I mean, and I'm curious to see if you have any info or pulse on this, but this whole thing was A-Rod and his group had the money, and then the funding dropped out. And I mentioned this on the show a couple weeks ago, and I could be completely off base. Please tell me if I am. This is kind of giving, like, not in the same vein, but this is kind of giving John Spano vibes. Like, A-Rod wanted to be a big shot, but he didn't really have the money. And, you know, I don't care if you're a Hall of Famer in Major League Baseball. I don't care that the Yankees gave you a $300 million contract. I don't care. You know, NBA teams cost a lot of money, and they cost billions of dollars, and it just seems like A-Rod didn't have that money.
Well, that's what we're going to find out. That's honestly what this whole process is going to be about. A-Rod and Mark Lurie will tell you they had the money. They had the paperwork submitted to the NBA 6 days before the deadline, and Glenn Taylor is, you know, illegally trying to cancel the deal against their contract agreement. Glenn Taylor says they missed certain deadlines throughout the process, and that's why he was able to kind of go back on the agreement. So that's I don't have access to A-Rod's finances. I don't have access to Lurie's finances. They said, you know, they had this firm Dyer Capital come in after they lost some funding, which you were alluding to. You know, the Carlyle Group dropped out, but they say they got somebody else in.
Is the capital firm really called Dyer Capital? That's kind of funny.
I think it's Dyer is how you spell it. But that's what I tell people about this. I'm like, I don't have access to their books, and we're not going to see who's right and who's wrong. All we have is their word at this point. We have the rumors of A-Rod and Mark Lurie always throughout this process. We've always heard they don't have the money. They don't have the money. They don't have the money. And I even brought that up to them when I interviewed them, and you know, they basically just flat out denied it. They said, we have the money. We had all of their stuff together and in on time, and the legal process is going to prove that they did. That's what they say. So I can only go by what they have said, what I have heard and reported throughout this process, and anybody who tells you definitively otherwise, I think just doesn't really know for sure. We won't know until this all plays out.
Well, Chris, that's it is an interesting subplot. There's no question. Chris Hine with the Minneapolis Star-Tribune covers the Timberwolves joining us. Chris, I told you we keep it like 15 minutes. We're at that point, but we always finish when we have a first-time guest on the show with a little bit we like to call Florida Man.
Florida man, 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 Florida man.
A Florida man started a fire inside his house after trying to make cookies on his George Foreman grill.
So Chris, are you familiar with the Florida Man game?
I'm not.
Okay,
please give me a quick primer.
So basically, we just put Florida Man and your birthday, not the year, but your month and your day into Google, and we see what it returns. It's usually
I like
something
this.
Interesting. So what is your birthday, Chris?
November 19th.
November 19th.
I'm the 20th. Yeah, go Scorpios.
All right, Scorpios. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so November 19th. This is all right. This one's exactly kind of the stuff that gives Florida Man its legend. A Florida man is arrested for having sex with a miniature horse on multiple occasions, deputies say. 21-year-old Nicholas Anthony Sardo. I feel like we've had this one before. Guys, have we had this one before?
Yes,
All right. Well, there you go. That's
a fitting one. That's a fitting one.
And
Yeah,
more ways than one.
I got one last question.
Oh,
I got one
God.
last question. Because I am a huge fan of Minneapolis. I love the Twin Cities. I love the people. I love the fans. But I also love the culture. And you guys, I used to travel in the NBA. We used to make a stop at one of my all-time favorite places called Ny's Polonaise, which was an old Polish restaurant. They used to have their own vodka for a long time. Is that place still up and running, or is that place shut down by?
I have no clue.
Really?
I would have to do some Googling. I have not been there if it's still open myself. There's like a nice bar that's over in Northeast, which I think I've been to a time or two, if that's the place you're referring to. I don't know what is Ny's Polonaise, though.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was originally Ny's Polonaise. It might have been. Go ahead,
I
Dave.
was gonna say, I never heard of Ny's Polonaise. I was there for a little bit, but it's Minneapolis is a terrific food city.
Maybe Jim was drinking the vodka that he had said that day.
Well, the story goes that there was a distillery in Poland that was closing down, and Ny's bought every bottle they had left before it shut down, parsing it out very slowly. Yeah, Ny's bar, Ny's piano bar. It used to be, and if you look at the wall, it's got the old. Yeah, I'm just looking at it right now. The official long name was Ny's Polonaise. If you look at the wall, if you ever go in there, it says Polonaise on the on the wall. And it might have been that Polonaise was the name of the vodka, for all I know. But that is a fantastic stop for anyone going to the Twin Cities. You can have your polka music, you can have your Polish food, you can have great cocktails in that old, what would you call it? Like a 50s vibe almost with the
a
way
little bit throwback vibe. For sure.
Throwback vibe.
Yeah,
it's a great play. I'm a big fan.
Chris, you can see how we do this show. We're all over the place. So anyway, Chris, appreciate the time, man. Safe travels out to Phoenix, and I can't tell you what I'm rooting for. I honestly don't know. I got obviously a lot of friends there in the Twin Cities, so I'm happy you guys are having success. So however this one plays out, enjoy the ride, my friend. It's been well earned.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
thank you guys for having me. Good to see you, Dave.
all right. Good to see you, Chris. Chris Hine, we're going to take a timeout. Much more of LFG ahead. Don't go anywhere. We will be back with our final segment of the Wednesday edition coming up in just a few moments.
Bud Light.
All right, Chris, awesome, man. Thanks so much, buddy.
All right.
Thank you, Chris. That was awesome. That was a lot of fun.
Yep, thank you. We'll see you guys later.
All right,
Today, we salute you, Mr. Pro Wrestling Wardrobe Designer. While
Yeah, they
lesser
changed the
designers
name. It
would
was
shy
Ny's
away from putting
Polonaise.
300-pound
Ny's
men in
Polonaise
spandex,
room
you embrace it.
until 1994.
Pushing fashion to its
And then they
limits,
changed the name.
literally.
Actually, they
You
changed the
pair
name in
tights with a
99.
cape, a leotard with a mask, leather boots with a thong. All understated ways of saying, I'm going to rip your head off and look fabulous doing it. So crack open an ice-cold Bud Light, Mr. Pro Wrestling Wardrobe Guy, because without you, a man crushing another man's head in his arms would just look silly.
Mr. Pro Wrestling Wardrobe Design.
Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
For over 40
That's one of my
years,
favorite
we here at
places.
Starbucks have brought our passion for fine coffee and espresso to people everywhere. But one place was impossible until now. Introducing the Verismo home brewing system by Starbucks. Simply insert the pot of your choice, press coffee, espresso, or latte, and give the machine your name.
Marcia.
And when it's ready, Verismo's voice feature will let you know.
Marfa. Order for a Marfa. Amarella.
Marcia?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if Verismo gets your order wrong, simply get its attention and walk it through the problem.
This is tea. I ordered a latte.
Okay, so one tea, one latte?
No, I just, no tea. I just want the latte.
Okay. Hold up.
Once Verismo says hold up, you're only 9 minutes away from getting your coffee.
She said she don't want no tea.
She said what?
And from the makers of Verismo comes Verquanica, a larger non-functional machine for Verismo to talk to about you.
Why she asked for a tea if she want a latte?
I don't know, man.
That's stupid.
And if you order now, you'll also receive Starbucks accessories like non-refrigerated milk pitchers, a bunch of discarded wooden stirrers, and a packet of sugar in the raw smashed into a puddle of cream.
Latte for Shasha.
Oh, I already got my latte.
Now she don't want a latte? Oh my God.
This bitch crazy.
She is working my last nerve.
The Verismo from Starbucks.
It's the bottom of the hour, or close enough. Time for your Tickscape Studios sports update with Matt Fowler.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are not expected to pick up quarterback Justin Fields' $25 million fifth-year option. A first-round draft pick in 2021, Fields was traded to the Steelers by the Bears last month for a conditional sixth-round pick. For all the latest news, updates, and hot takes, tune in to LFG, where we have the best commercials on the planet. I mean, I'm sorry, that Starbucks thing was priceless, man.
Saturday Night Live, they give the gift that keeps on giving. The Wednesday edition rolls on. Dave Benz, Jim Kozumor, who has gone to stretch his legs, Matt Fowler, Bisa, our associate producer, back in the Las Vegas confines, and Coz is back right on cue. Did you know we just came back from break, or was that just coincidental timing?
Coincidental timing, but I know what I figured. I knew the clock. Matt had to do an update. So
yeah. So Matt, what happened to the Dr. Evil laugh on the update?
I chose to holster that with. I mean, I can do it.
No, I think
you have
it's
a new
good.
signature.
I think you made a good decision to get rid of that one. That was not bueno. No bueno. Chris Hine was that was kind enough for him to join us. And I mean, that really is an interesting dynamic, right? That subplot with what's going on with A-Rod and Mark Laurie. And I don't know how this thing plays out. I just know this. I would love that mediation to be televised, much the way I would love for these proceedings in New York to be televised. Like, what is going on? Why are we not getting these things on TV? This is good television.
I say pay-per-view. If you're going to do it, go pay-per-view. Lower our taxes,
I'm paying.
But then pay-per-view a lot of these court cases, and then maybe they make up some extra money that way. Your thoughts?
If we pay-per-view, if A-Rod and Mark Laurie pay-per-view the mediation with Glenn Taylor, then that can maybe help offset some of the money that they're lacking, and they can have enough money to be able to get the deal done.
Can you MC?
Do you think people would really want to see it, though?
If we do that, can you MC the pay-per-view? That'd be great.
That would be something, wouldn't it? If I was emceeing the pay-per-view, that would be something. Anyway, all kidding aside, I gotta be honest with you. Like, the Timberwolves are probably going to win this series against the Suns. I think Phoenix probably finds a way to win a game. I thought going into it, Phoenix might win the series in 6, but they look really good. And the Timberwolves, I think, would take on the Nuggets in the second round. That'd be a rematch of a playoff series from last year. A couple of division rivals.
Which 4 teams do you want left in the West? Which 4 teams would you like to see left in the West?
I'd like to see Oklahoma City. Unless
I agree.
I'd love to see OKC because they're young and they're fun.
I agree.
I'd like to see the Nuggets.
Me too.
I have my personal reasons for why I'd rather see the Suns, but I think the Timberwolves are obviously a better team to watch.
I understand that too. I'd like to see Minnesota over Phoenix in this one, and then what about the last one, Dallas and the Clippers?
I want Dallas. I'd like to see Dallas. I mean, I'm not a James Harden fan. And he's playing great. He's playing great, but I'm not a James Harden fan. And I'm
not a James Harden fan, but I'm not a Mark Cuban fan. So I'd have to go Clippers. I think I'd like to stick it to the NBA because they'd want the Lakers to get in, and I'm going to give them the Clippers. So I'd go, I'd go Clippers,
fan?
Minnesota, Denver, and Oklahoma City.
Why aren't you a Mark Cuban fan?
He shoots his mouth off too much. He's made himself too much of the story, and I'm over it.
Yeah, I don't know. I disagree about Cuban, but I know Cuban, so I'm biased. I mean, I worked in Dallas back in '01, and had a chance to kind of do some stuff with Mark on a TV show that he used to host there back in the early days. And, I've actually had a chance to have a couple of cocktails with him at a couple of points. And, that's why
I hope he bought him. I hope he bought.
He actually did. So I'll tell you a quick story. One night, the NBA All-Star Game was in Denver, I think in 2004, and Mark Cuban, I ran into Mark at an NBA event in the lead up to the All-Star Game. It was maybe either Friday or Saturday before, and Mark actually said to me, "Where's good tonight?" So I told him the club that was good, and he goes, "All right." He's like, we'll be there. So I go to Mark's. I go to the club and meet Mark out. And, he ends up having a table with bottle service, and me and some of my friends are there, and we're, drinking pretty much the whole night and hanging out with Mark, and it was great. And at the end of the night, I pulled out some money to hand to Mark to, kind of help pay for the table, which I think is the appropriate thing to do. And Mark looked at me like I had insulted his mother. It was like because it was like, I'm trying to hand a guy who's worth a couple of billion, a couple of $100. I mean, it's kind of
still no. See, it's another reason to hate him. See, so he said, "Wow, this guy knows that I'm a billionaire, but he was going to buy his drinks. What a class, upstanding guy Dave is. I'm going to say no, thank you. It's my treat. But I'm back ahead. Dave's an upstanding guy. Everyone else is filching off me. Boy, that gives me more like sports hate."
Your mic has been fine the whole show, but now your mic is suddenly cutting out. So I don't know if your Wi-Fi.
I'm angry at him.
Go on a hike or not.
Maybe.
And I get that take, but it was more like it was a quick look, and we had a whole good night together, and so it wasn't like Mark hadn't talked to me all night.
I mean, did he have like a smirk on his face, like really?
Yeah, kind of maybe like that. You also have to realize we'd been there for several hours and we had a few cocktails, so my recollections of exactly how that went down might be a little bit, foggy. But that was I will tell you that secretly when there were stories about Mark possibly getting into politics, I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I would love for Mark to be president, because then I could be like, I know the president. Like, that would be pretty cool.
No, totally. That would be that. And you can't tell me, by the way, if he were to become president, like, you can't tell me one time in 8 years you wouldn't get to come to the White House or something cool like that. I mean, come on.
Well, I don't know if he'd be going out of his way to have me come to the White House. There's more important people than that. But it would be cool to actually say that you at one point we're having cocktails with the president. That would be kind of cool. Anyway, so you going back to your original point, the four teams that I want in the West, I mean we're fairly aligned, and in the East, I'm pulling for the Knicks big time. I want the Heat.
Why is that? Why is that? You were a Knicks fan as a kid?
No, I just don't like the Sixers. I just really don't like the Sixers. Okay. Although I do like Nick Nurse.
I don't either.
I do like Nick Nurse, so that kind of puts me in a quandary because Nick is a really
I agree with you on both counts.
Yeah. So that puts me in a little bit of a quandary, but I'm not an Embiid fan. Overall, I'm not a Sixer fan. And so I
trust the process.
Yeah. So I'm pro Knicks.
I'm still waiting on that process, by the way.
You're still waiting on the process. By the way, shout out to
there's just.
I was going to say, shout out to Ed Cohen, who is the Knicks radio guy. Fantastic voice, does a great job. He actually, full disclosure, was who I asked to come on to be our guest on our Hump Day Handle segment today. And he texted me, I was unaware of this. He's not calling the Knicks playoff games because he's having a voice issue. He told me that his health is otherwise fine. So that's good news. But he is not calling the playoffs, so a speedy recovery to him for whatever the ailment is that's affecting his voice. And that's, kind of an important thing to be able to have a voice when you're a radio play-by-play guy.
Yeah, it's really tough. I feel bad for him, especially on this run where a lot of people feel that the New York Knicks have a chance to make a deep run, possibly to the conference. I'll never know what happened. Boy, especially in New York when you haven't won since, is it 71, 72? When Willis Reed came out of that tunnel, that's how long it's been for Knickerbockers.
It's definitely been a long time. What's your who are you pulling for in the East Coast? Who do you want to see come out of those? I mean, it looks like the Celtics are going to bounce the Heat, but I'd like to see the Heat advance. I don't really have a strong feeling about the Cavs.
I like the C's.
Magic.
I'm a fan of C's.
You're a fan of the C's?
Oh, wait, what's that one? Cleveland and
Cleveland, Orlando. I'd like to see Orlando make it a series because Orlando hasn't been good in a long time.
I agree with you. I'd love to have Cleveland. I really would love for Cleveland to win and then just have the greatest parade Cleveland's ever had in history. And have LeBron watch on TV. He'll have LeBron tears. Instead of Michael crying, it'll be LeBron crying. But boy, the Orlando story is really good, isn't it? They've been so bad for so long. They've really been non-existent since they were extremely good. That's a coin flip for me, Dave. I'll be honest. That is a coin flip for me.
Well, they play tomorrow at 7 Eastern. Cavs Magic series will shift to Orlando tonight. In the NBA gets
what series that I'm missing?
You're missing Bucks Pacers tied at 1-1 with Caitlin Clark's boyfriend. Hopefully trying to move on and potentially get a ring.
I like either team. I hope they both lose.
I think has Giannis has been out, right? I haven't even let that tell you how dialed in I've been on that series.
Dame Lillard had the huge game in Game 1 that led Milwaukee to win. Game 2 ends up going to Indianapolis, or Indy's going back home to Indianapolis. I wonder if Caitlin Clark will be in attendance. It would have to be, right?
Sure.
Well, it's April. She hasn't graduated yet.
I mean, well, wait. She's already in Indiana, and her boyfriend is going to be at the game because he's an assistant. So, sure, I think
she's already there. She doesn't have to Iowa or anything.
All right. Well, hey, Matt, you need to call Coz, or Coz needs to call you. Coz, I don't know what happened, man. You were rolling. Your mic was great for the first until you went off on that last break.
Yeah, I'm plugged in, and so that's tough. Oh well. All right, guys. Out.
Yeah. So Matt gave there we go. All right. So Coz, I think we may have an early end of the show today. Do you ever get MF for us today, Matt?
Honestly, no. I wasn't I mean, I wasn't prepared for that. No, I'll be honest with you. I mean, wouldn't you rather I be honest with you than try and make one up? I mean, I can come up with one.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I think we've done. Listen, we started a minute early today. We started 1 minute early. And our normal off time is 56. So I think, why not? Let's just end the show a minute early today. So that's going to do it.
Let's just
we don't have a hard off time. We just end the show when we want. That's how we do it here.
I like the Coz just dips. All right, guys, peace out. just left.
Yeah. All right, so that's going to do it for our Wednesday edition. Thanks to our guest Chris Hine for joining us. Not to be confused with Chrissy Hine, as Coz suggested. Tomorrow, Drew Goldfarb will return. In fact, Matt, make sure you text Drew and let him know we are back after our hiatus.
Yeah. So we have just an update for the listeners. We have Jennifer Hammond is going to be on tomorrow at 11. And then we have Drew Goldfarb, presumably, at 10:30.
And you're giving those times as Pacific times. So Drew Goldfarb will be on at 2 p.m. Eastern, and 1:30 Eastern we will have Drew Goldfarb. So that will do it for the Wednesday edition. We will see you tomorrow. We will have it will also be the Thursday, so we will open the mailbag, which is maybe my favorite day of the week. So stay tuned.
We got to do ordinary calls too. So tomorrow's going to be a full day.
We didn't get maybe we'll get ordinary calls. We might just skip ordinary calls this week. I don't know. We'll see. But that's going to do it for the Thursday edition. For Jim Kozumor and Matt Fowler and our fantastic intern / now associate producer, Bisa, Dave Ben saying peace out. We will see you Thursday here on LFG.